Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Pike County Report. I'm your host, Shannon Deskins, and I have with me today Pike County Judge Executive Ray Jones and Pike County Deputy Judge Executive Reggie Hickman. Now, Reggie, you're a new face that I think Judge Jones is going to introduce to everybody formally today. They've probably seen you in court meetings and things like that, but I think Judge Jones is going to talk more about your role and how that came to be. But guys, love to welcome you today, and I'm sure we've got a lot to talk about.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we do have quite a few things to bring our fellow Pike Countyans up to speed on. But we're proud of the work that we've done so far. And, you know, I think I have the best deputy judge in Kentucky. And I say that with all seriousness because, as Shannon, you and I may have talked, before I was elected, I had no intention of hiring a deputy judge. But I started back in the fall of 2016. I did an open records request and requested every minute of the fiscal court back to 2002. January of 2003. So in my spare time, I read minutes. It was a banker's box and a half to try to get an idea of how we got to the point where we are, to look at the issues that the court had addressed, how they had addressed them. And some of the issues were glaringly obvious. For instance, the failure to put money aside for our solid waste system. The failure to plan as our coal service receipts continue to decrease. And when I ran for office, I made a promise to myself that I would do things completely different than had ever been done in the history of this county, that I would instill professional management in the judge's office. And if you look at the people I've hired, I've not hired politicians. I've hired people with either a management background, a business background. Fabian Little, our road supervisor, had 27 years experience, never been politically active. And when I approached Reggie about coming on board, something he had never considered. But with his business background, he can tell you a little bit about that, it was a perfect fit. He's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. If you look at the people that we've either hired or retained on the fiscal court, it's not been done on partisan grounds. We've done it based upon people's ability, people's talent. We've got some people that are very talented in county government that were already there, but they hadn't been given direction. They hadn't been given any management leadership. And what we found, and I think Reggie would agree with this, that there's a lot of really good people in county government, but that upper level management have been lacking. And you know, there's a reason there's only one captain of a ship. You know, you can't have every sailor making the call. There has to be a captain, and that's my role, is to try to right this ship. You know, as an analogy.
Correct.
But you have to have subordinates. You have to have mid-level management that can carry out the vision that you have for the county in the direction that you think it should go.
Well,
Reggie?
even I was going to say from now, or from January through now, let's talk about some of the things that you have talked to Reggie about and the things you've asked him to do and some of the things that we've been successful at in the county, just to give people an idea of the role that the deputy judge plays.
Well, first of all, he's involved in every, and I think before we go into that, I think people need to understand his business background.
Okay.
Reggie was president of a company called Brock McVeigh. He ran a $50 million company with 200 employees. He took it from basically the edge of collapse, and he turned it around and made it a highly profitable company. He previously worked at Pikeville Medical Center. He was the director of materials management, I guess is the title,
Right.
associate vice president. And when you bring someone from a business background in, they walk into and they look at the processes that have been, or the lack of processes in the county, in county government. I mean, you know, he made the statement to me one day early on. He said, you know, some days I'd like to just find one positive thing that had been done previously. And there's been a lot of days that we can't, you know, as we're wading into these issues. But he's been intimately involved in the restructuring of the management in solid waste, the rate studies, working on the rerouting, working on the broadband initiative. He has taken sort of the lead on that issue. He is serving as my proxy on the health department board. My wife is a physician, of course, and is on the health department board. I didn't think it was appropriate to have a husband and wife on the health department board, both as members. So I've asked Reggie to serve in that role. He is my designee, and we're both on the Big Sandy Area Development Board. He's my designee. He is helping me right now on our insurance procurement. There's in the next fiscal court meeting, we will probably retain the insurance coverage for workers' comp and general liability for the county for the next year. Unfortunately, because of the claims history, we're looking at a pretty substantial increase in the premium. We're getting quotes from 3 different companies, Keiko, a company called Assured Partners, and then I think People's Insurance was the third one. But we're trying to go through county government, and we're trying to take each department, look and see where we're wasting money. And we found a lot of areas. Reggie, why don't you just jump in here and you can.
Well, I think one of the biggest things, Shannon, has been the need for consistent day-to-day operations, and somebody in the courthouse every day for people to answer to and look to for answers to their questions. And it is a cultural change for those folks, because we're running a little tighter ship than we did before. But it needed to be, and that was this court's desire. Was to be more business-like, more professional in everything that we do. So we look in depth at every department, at every aspect of county government, and it's been a very quick 90 days. I will say that. It's been a flash, but still a lot to do, still a long way to go. And I think things have taken a positive turn as far as day-to-day operations go.
One of the things that we've heard, and I mentioned this to you because of the EKB story that you did updating on, and there were a lot of people on Facebook just negative comments, and I don't necessarily take that personal, because if you look at the history, the lack of customer support, the lack of concern for there's been no emphasis on customer service. And when I say that, I mean, when you run a solid waste service, for instance, and people are paying for that service, they expect quality service. Reggie uses the word blue ribbon service. And last week, he brought all of the solid waste workers and inmates in at my request. And we had a long meeting on a Saturday to talk about our expectations. And this program is being recorded on April 10th. We have next court meeting on April 16th at 10 a.m. Yesterday, we had a customer that was really upset with 2 truck drivers. Those truck drivers were brought into the judge's office yesterday, into the courthouse, and in no uncertain terms did I explain to them what we expect of them. And I just asked one of the drivers, I said, and I'm not going to go into detail, but you have children, yes. Would you appreciate it if someone did in your neighborhood what you did in this neighborhood? No, I wouldn't. That's the response. So, but again, Shannon, that goes back to the fact that no one's been looking at those issues. Now, we no longer have a solid waste commissioner, Mr. Bobby Mullins. He served the county for a lot of years. We appreciate his service, but he's retiring. One of the things that we're doing is we're not going to restructure, or we're not going to replace him. That'll save the county probably $85,000 a year in wages and benefits. And we're just going to we've got a new landfill manager, Larry Hensley, certified landfill manager and operator. The landfill's probably running better right now because we've given Larry, somebody's talented and trained, we've given him the authority to run the landfill the way he thinks it needs to be ran. We're seeing less flat tires on trucks going in and out. The road's in much better condition. There's less mud being tracked out. And the big issue is there's less water getting into the landfill, and therefore less leachate that we're having to process. We put Stephanie Clevenger over the operations in the office, billing, collections, and we're seeing more efficiency. We're utilizing the software that the county already had Then we've got right now Chuck Morley is sort of serving as the interim manager over the collection process. And Chuck probably is the best qualified person we could put in that position. And we're evaluating him. We've given him, we've not given him the title. We've not given him a pay raise, but we're seeing what he can do. And so far, I've been very impressed because he's driven about every route in the county. He's ran the boom truck, and he's been the customer service manager for several years. So we're trying to cut out the fluff, and we're giving people the ability to supervise and manage and carry out the direction we want to go. But one of the things I would say, and I think Reggie would agree with this, is instead of people, and I would just ask people, if you have a problem with solid waste or the road department, public works, if you go on Facebook or social media and you make a complaint, that's not going to help us fix the problem because by and large, we may never know that you've made the complaint. Give us an opportunity. We've been in office 3 months. Give us an opportunity to fix it. If we can't fix it, then that's on us. Some things we can't fix. We've had people call in, well, they didn't pick my garbage up. Then you talk to the truck driver, and turns out they ran the route, but the customer didn't put the garbage out until the truck had already gone. So we encourage people to get their trash out early in the morning before the drivers start the routes. But again, there are going to be issues with customer service. If we know about those, we'll address them.
The thing we're trying to do, Shannon, is to establish best practices and establish in the mind of the employees that these best practices are the best way to go about business daily. We have come a long way in just 90 days in terms of what the expectation is. But we're just now getting to the point where we can get past that change that happens every 4 years with government, and the fact that these folks see new faces over the years several times, and everybody's had a different approach. So we're trying to be an iron fist and a velvet glove, change the expectation and make sure everybody understands what that expectation is, and then really establish a team that we can move forward with. And I know that's a buzzword, but it's really true. And then to go with that, as the expectation increases with that, and everybody sees that expectation change, I think that the citizens of Pike County will see a difference in the way government's run, without a doubt. This court is very engaged. I have been very impressed with the judge and with the commissioners. I can't say enough good things about how hard they work. They are a very hard-working group.
And I think that point needs to be made. It's not just Ray Jones and Reggie Hickman.
That's right.
Yesterday, Ronnie Roberts and Commissioner Roberts and myself, we went over to the county maintenance garage, looked at some things. Ronnie has 40-plus years experience in business, trucking, and he's sort of the point person to help us, give us ideas. He's not supervising the road garage, but he's giving us his recommendations. He's heading up the committee to oversee our vehicle fleet because nobody knows it better than he does. Commissioner Jason Tackett, District 2, has done an excellent job. Jason's working on some venture tourism issues. He's sort of the point person on the court to oversee the committee on the road system. Reggie and Jason were at Lick Creek looking at an area up at Lick Creek, about 3,000 acres, either for a trail system for ATVs or horseback, like horseback riding. And then Brian Booth, District 3 Commissioner. Brian is actually the Pikeville City Solid Waste Supervisor. So it was a logical fit to put him in the role of overseeing, or I won't say overseeing, but as being the committee chair over the solid waste system. And Brian is on the landfill pretty much every day. He understands, and Brian came early on, he said, we have too many trucks, too many drivers, and the routes are too inefficient. And we've been looking at that, and that's one of the things that we can talk about. When I mentioned to you on the television program, on your interview, that we're going to go 4 10-hour work weeks, and some of the Facebook pundits, well, how's that going to save money? You're still going to have trucks on the road, you still have to run them. Here's what we figured out. We've got garbage trucks that are running routes that were designed 20, 25 years ago. They've never been looked at. The demographics of the county have changed. Certain areas have less population now. population has sort of moved to this part of the county. Pike was growing. Other areas are depopulating. And as a result, routes that used to take 8 hours to run are now taking 3 and 4 hours. We are looking comprehensively. There's 4 solid waste lots. We've got one of them pretty much done. We think that we can go to 4 10-hour days. We'll need less employees and less vehicles, which will save money. And it will give us Mondays to do maintenance on the fleet, to take care of repairs, preventive maintenance, that will also save money. Right now, you've got garbage trucks and employees on the road 5 days a week, and the routes are so inefficient. They're driving around, they're finished with the routes, and they're just sitting there. For instance, we learned that there's 26 and a half hours of available packer truck time on Lot 1 every week. That's 26 hours that we've got packers just sitting there doing nothing. So that's just sheer inefficiency. So when you make the routes more efficient, your drivers and trucks are getting more done in a day, you compress it to 4-day work weeks, it's going to mean 1 day a week that there will be some fuel savings. You're not going to save money on the labor side. It will be on the fuel and maintenance. Right. And the other benefit is there are a lot of people who complain if they've got Monday pickups, like I have Monday pickup. A lot of holidays fall on Monday, Labor Day, Memorial Day. So in other holidays, as they rotate through, Christmas, New Year, whatever it may be. So what we're going to do is if a holiday, so there won't be pickup on Monday, and a lot of people are saying, when does this take effect? Well, it's not taking effect. We will announce in the paper, on social media, and we will come up with a system, maybe hanging cards that when your garbage is picked up, there'll be a notice that'll be placed on your trash can or on your door or your fence that says, beginning this day, your trash will be picked up on a different day, whatever that may be.
Right.
So here's the thing about that, though. So let's say that Christmas is on a Wednesday. A few years ago, 2 years ago, Christmas was on Monday. I think it was 2 years ago. Well, my trash got picked up like on the 18th. It didn't get picked up on Monday the 25th. So I went 2 weeks with no pickup. And as you can imagine, during Christmas, that's a disaster. We had trash everywhere. So what that would do is if, for instance, Christmas is on a Tuesday and your day to have your garbage picked up is Tuesday, instead of having it picked up on the holiday and causing county workers to miss their day off, their trash will be picked up on that Monday. So the week of a holiday, if your trash pickup is on the holiday, Monday is when your garbage will be picked up. So that way the trash will be picked up, you won't miss a pickup, and the employees will be at home with their families on that holiday. So that will clearly improve customer service. And I think that change will have some long-term benefit for the system.
And I think the entire time since you guys came in January, solid waste was a big thing that we even talked about before you took office that you were focusing on. And these are just some of the things that you're discovering and some of the changes you're proposing. Not everything at this point is set in stone, like you talked about. These are just things you're rolling out there. But you guys have been very transparent in letting the people of Pike County know we're looking at this idea or this idea because you welcome the feedback.
The 4-day pickup will happen. Here's the thing that and again, it goes back to I don't take the criticism personal. When I was running, people were saying, "Oh, he's going to privatize solid waste." If we privatize solid waste, if we say we didn't raise rates, there's 2 or 3 things that are just fundamentally not debatable. One is there's no money being set aside for solid waste. In about 2 years, we've got to start construction of Phase 6 of the landfill. You got 2 options. You could just run out Phase 5, you got 4 years left, and shut it down. The county's responsible for the landfill from 30 years post-closure. There's probably not enough money in there, so the county's on the hook for, if there's not enough money, the county's still on the hook to shut it down. If you shut it down, that means your trash is probably going to have to be hauled to Ashland. You're going to have contract haulers to haul it at about $500 a load. You're talking at the rate we're producing trash, about 2,500 loads a year. And you're going to pay that landfill $30+ a ton to dump it. Now, it's pretty clear to me that we can dispose of Pike County residents' trash on Ford Mountain at Johns Creek a lot cheaper than we can haul it to Ashland and pay somebody else to take it. Either way, somebody's got to pick it up, whether it's county employees or whether it's private contractors. The county's not doing it to make a profit. The county's just hoping to break even. But if you put a Waste Management or a Rumpke or a Waste Connections or a BFI, one of those kind of companies in the mix, it's for profit. They're not going to do it out of the goodness of their heart. They're going to do it to make money. I think service goes down. For instance, Floyd County, the rates may be lower, but they don't go to the last house in the hall. They go to the school bus turnaround. Many counties have bag limits. We have no bag limit. You know, up where I live on Island Creek, there's people threw a bunch of furniture out. So the boom truck goes up and picks it up. I mean, in some people don't realize that. If you put it out beside the road, even if it's a refrigerator, a stove, a couch, a television, the garbage trucks, that material can't go in a packer or mini packer because it damages the internals. Mm-hmm. But we have a boom truck. All you have to do is call the solid waste office, and if you're a paying customer, they'll come and pick it up, no matter how big it is, no matter what it is.
And I think these are a lot of things that they're coming to light that people don't realize that service exists. So as we go forward, I know education's important for you all. So
that service is not going to happen with a private contractor.
Right.
And there's another part of this. We've lost so many jobs in Pike County. If solid waste were to privatize, that puts 70 people in this county, 70 men and women out of a job.
Right. A lot of things to think about on that, but I know there were a couple other things that we want to hit on today. So solid waste will be something I think every single show that we can update the people on. But something else that has come up recently, and we're getting into spring and summer, and a lot of people have their minds on the golf course in Lower Johns Creek, and you said you wanted to kind of give some updates on that. You've had some people in looking at things, some soil samples. So let's give an update on where we are with that project at this point.
Go ahead.
Well,
and it may not be positive, but at least it's information that people aren't aware of.
It's a very tough topic. Mm-hmm. University of Kentucky has a specialist that came up just a couple of days ago. We had soil samples that were taken. The soil samples indicated a lot of deficiencies in the soil, obviously, because the greens had died, all 19 of them, including the practice green. So now we're looking at a situation where it's not going to be possible this year to recover. Bent grass can be, lime can be put down, the chemical base to the soil can be corrected, but it just can't be done in time for there to be anything done at the golf course this year. So, and the court's not inclined to put any money into it at this point. So we're looking at more decisions that still have to be made, and the court will do that. But we did not get a good report back about the soil condition. We didn't expect to. And then the remediation of that, the correction of that, went about the way most people thought it would. That it would take a lot of time, and we've got to get the acidity out of the soil with the lime, and then correct everything.
And this is an area that a lot of people are very familiar with the fact that when the water gets up, we have a flooding event. That is one of the first areas that does take on water. So it's been a challenge, I'm sure, for years and years.
And the judge just met with Colonel Evers from the Corps of Engineers, and he can address that. So
going back to what Judge Hickman said, we are not going to spend taxpayer money on the golf course in light of the financial situation facing the county. It's just the cost-benefit analysis. You can debate whether a golf course should have ever been constructed where it is. The intent was, it was well intended. It was intended to give people here the same quality of life, the same opportunity they have in other places, and to try to use it as a tool, trying to bring new people into the community. I mean, golf is important to a lot of business. A lot of business is done on the golf course. Probably not the best location. Regardless of whatever happens, there were 2 leases. The property on the golf course is comprised of 2 leases. One entered into in 1990, a 99-year lease. One in 1995, also a 99-year lease. And what started out as a combined $11,000 in rent because of a consumer price index provision in those lease agreements, is now up to $42,000, $43,000 a year. So whether the golf course operates or not, the county's on the hook for the $42,000, $43,000 a year. The county will get money for the recent damage to the golf course from FEMA. Mm-hmm. 130,000, 138,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
It's over 100,000.
But if you recall, President Trump has not declared a disaster or issued a disaster declaration. It was just yesterday on April 9th that Governor Bevin asked for a presidential disaster declaration for 58 Kentucky counties.
Correct.
So hopefully President Trump will do that, but we won't see that money till next year. If we could come up with just enough money in the fall, lime's cheap. We could start putting lime down, putting some fertilizer down, and then hopefully replant them in the fall. And take the FEMA money. The county probably will, at some point, the court will reinstitute. They dissolved the golf course board to where you could put a board of people who are interested in it. The county's going to have to pay the rent. Mm-hmm. The county's also paying the salary for one employee under the management agreement with the current management company that's over there. But the golf course only generated $15,000 in revenue last year. It's not anywhere near self-sufficient. But this week, and going to our last topic, Monday, I met with Colonel Jason Evers, who is the division commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Huntington. He's a super guy. This is the second time he's come to Pike County. He's really interested. He's a go-getter. Mm-hmm. He came down for the press conference over the agreement that we have with the Corps to try to help clean Fish Trap up. The Corps partner with us on that. Mm-hmm. Yesterday they called. He's having someone come down and looking to see if we can build a berm that would protect the front nine on the golf course. There's a berm on parts of the golf course. It's not high enough, but the problem is the front nine of the golf course, there's areas that's not protected by a berm. So the water gets in behind the other areas of the berm. And it's just every year we have 2 or 3 flood events. And when that happens, it just kills the revenue for the course for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. Right. So hopefully the Corps will work with us and let us construct a berm to protect it. To get the golf course back open, we'll have the FEMA money. Hopefully we can use that money to get the course back open next year. But it doesn't make sense to me to spend any money on it until we find a solution to the repeated flooding. Because, you know, even if the fairways come back pretty quick, you're down, you're losing the revenue, and it's just a killer for the project.
Well, speaking of the Corps of Engineers, that's going to lead us into the last topic that I think a lot of people are going to be interested in, and that's something new that you're discussing with the Corps of Engineers. I believe you're calling it the 202 project. That's going to become very familiar to people as we move forward.
Well, on April 16th at the court meeting, mm-hmm. Representatives of the Army Corps of Engineers in conjunction with Pike County Floodplain Coordinator Jimmy Kaiser will be talking about a floodproofing project for the Leviza Fork and the Russell Fork of the Big Sandy. We have invited representatives from the city of Pikeville, Elkhorn City, and Mayor Andrew Scott from Coal Run. He's chomping at the bit for this project. And this is not, you know, Pike County residents have heard a lot of pie in the sky promises. The Corps has already spent $8 million on this project. But and I didn't call him and say, come down. You know, he called and said, I need to come down and talk to the members of your leadership team about this project. Potential impact on this county is $1 billion over the next 20 years. That's right, $1 billion. Right. So there are 2 different components. There are structural floodproofing components, which would mean flood walls. And we know the Corps has done that. I mean, they've done it at Williamson. They've done it at South Williamson. They've done floodproofing in the Peter Creek area. And when they talk about structural plans, those are flood walls. And non-structural would be either raising structures or buying structures out that in the floodplain. So the first part of this will either be a flood wall to take in a large part of Coal Run, or in the city of Pikeville that would come in for the upper bowls all the way down behind the high school, the state road maintenance garage, It stops about where Walter Chevrolet is. I think they ought to take it on down because there are several businesses in that stretch. The flood walls alone are about, what do you say, 110 million each?
Yes.
So you're talking 110, 115 million each. So that's 220 or $230 million in construction for those two projects alone. That puts local people to work. It's supplies for local businesses. And then areas where we have homes that are repeatedly flooding, it will either get people out of those areas or it will raise the structure. So, I mean, the amount of construction work that we could see take place in this county over the next 20 years is substantial, because once they get the Leviza Fort and areas on the Russell Fort done, then they'll go up the tributaries, areas up Shelby Valley, areas up, Greasy Creek, Marbone, areas where they've had flood events. Those are things that will improve the quality of life. And here's something else. Flood insurance is getting more and more expensive.
Yes, it is.
And even when I lived in the city of Pike, I carried flood insurance, even though I was behind the wall, it was expensive. Right now, most people have been priced out of the market for flood insurance. These projects will substantially lower the flood insurance costs for Pike Countyans. It will increase property values. It will take homes that are in the floodplain and substantially increase the value. So we think it's a win-win situation. I'm not sure if the city of Pike was interested in partnering with us on it. I know Colerain, they're ready to go because of the potential economic benefits. So hopefully everybody can come together. It'll be an informational meeting that we encourage people to listen to. It will be live stream on Facebook and also on Pike TV. So I think it's a very positive thing.
And now this is coming up on the 16th. So this is
16th,
the next Tuesday following the airing of this show, 10:30 in the morning, correct?
That's correct. And there's a 95-5 match. So the federal government will put 95% of the money in. The local entities have to put 5%. So if you do the math, that means about 50-some million for the state government and about $3 million for Pike County. But here's where I get that number. There have been preliminary talks with the Department of Local Government, and they had initially agreed to pay 95% of the 5% match. So we would only be responsible for 5% of the 5% match. And we have invited representatives from the Department of Local Government to the meeting. So if we can get some help from the state, it would have a substantial, and this is not just Pike County, it's Floyd County. I think Johnson County's $100+ million in work around Paintsville. Floyd County, I think Judge Colonel Evers said, is maybe a little farther along than we are. So we're going to take this and run with it because of the potential economic benefit for the county.
And there's not many people in Pike County that can't remember whether it was 1984 or 1977 or even back into the 1957 flood. We've all got memories of a flooding event. So I know the Corps, that's how Fish Trap Dam and Fish Trap Lake came to be as a flood control project. So they're still looking at our area, and no matter what they've done, they're still looking at doing more. So that's something definitely worth looking into and paying attention to.
And, my parents' business was flooded in '84. And if you've never been through a flood event, it is traumatic. It can be financially devastating and emotionally devastating. And what we've seen in this county is areas have flooded that have never flooded before. We're having these torrential downpours. Look at Winds Branch. Winds Branch flooded twice in 13 months. And to my knowledge, it had never flooded before.
No, I mean, we've had those stories that have come up, whether it's Flat Gap in Johnson County, these floods that come out of nowhere. But all of these projects that are looking at doing could minimize the chance of that ever happening. So definitely worth looking into at the meeting coming up on the 16th. Listen and ask your questions. And as we wrap up the show, first let me give you guys a chance to, is there anything else you want to mention or say that we've not had a chance to talk about?
Well, just real quickly, we did get the email system in place. The employees of the court were using personal email. That's all been taken care
no-no.
of, and that's
Oh,
a
wow.
really bad thing. And we're looking at the infrastructure in the courthouse in terms of phones, wiring, and the IT infrastructure. We've got issues there that we're going to have to address. And then at some point, we'd like to address the website and do some more creative things. So we've got a full plate of things we want to do.
And as you guys have mentioned a couple times just in this show, I mean, we're looking at this first 90 days. It's easy for us to think, well, you guys have been in for a lot longer than that, but it's really only been 90 days. And what you've accomplished and what the county's accomplished is huge. But as you say, there are a whole lot of things still to tackle.
I mean, we think about this. We're in the 21st century. And when we came in, there was no county email system. I mean, something as basic. Every business, my law firm, every business uses email. Pike County's employees were using their own email. And so we're having to do a lot of basic, rudimentary things. Our phone system in the county, Reggie probably didn't mention, is we're having to find parts on eBay or the internet because the phone system's not made any longer. And we're one power surge.
That's correct.
We're one power surge away from not having any phone system. And the cost, we're looking at, can we afford a new phone system? How do we do it? I mean, fundamentally, you can't run county government without phones. And just a lot of those little infrastructure things that have been just ignored and kicked down the road, we're trying to address those, and we will address those.
Okay. And then as we end the show, I think it's fair to say you've mentioned a couple times, especially talking about comments on news stories or anything that's been out there, instead of people posting to social media, you encourage people to call your office.
Please call.
So let's give that number.
The judge's office, 432-6247. Solid Waste, 432-6245. If you have a road issue, if you need to reach one of the commissioners, Commissioner Ronnie Robertson, Commissioner Jason Tackett, or Commissioner Brian Booth, call the judge's office. They will get a message to them if it's a road problem. We have a system in place to track complaints. You call, you make a complaint, it gets assigned to the right person. I get a copy, Reggie gets a copy, the appropriate department head gets a copy, and we track those. And, like I said, sometimes customer service will fall short, but, it doesn't help the county. And really, these negative comments on social media, all it does is undermine people's faith in county government. And it's demoralizing to the men. I mean, you think people can complain about the solid waste or whatever, but when it's 20 degrees, there's going to be people out there picking your trash up. If it's raining, if it's snowing, there's going to be somebody out in the back of a garbage truck early in the morning trying to pick your trash up. And these people work hard. A lot of them are not highly paid. And, I value what our public employees do. It's a hard job. And it's a dangerous job, riding around in the back of garbage trucks. Tragically, a Martin County solid waste employee was killed here this year. And, we've had accidents where people have been seriously injured on our solid waste system. We're trying to prevent that. We're trying to give them safety equipment and safety training. So, but, it really is demoralizing when all the negativity. If there is a customer service issue, call us. We can't fix it if we don't know about it.
Okay. I guess that's a good way to end the show. Again, that number, 606-432-6247, will get you to the Pike County Judge Executive's office. We've talked about a lot of things. There's a court meeting coming up on the 16th, of course, 10:30 in the morning. Go to the Pike County Courthouse where you can watch that here on Pike TV. They also broadcast it on their Facebook page. So a lot of things going on in Pike County. We've addressed some of those today, and a lot of those things that are going to come up in the next few weeks we'll talk about next month. This has been the latest edition of the Pike County Report. I'm Shannon Deskins.